Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Most Segregated Hour podcast. I am your host, Pastor Michael Braden, and we are here once again with another great episode. I got my man, Resident Thorin, with us as always. Thorin, how's it
You know
going?
what? Oh, it's going well. You know what time it is. It's podcast
Yeah, that's,
time. Always
that's
good to
right. It
be
is
here.
podcast time. And today, our special guest, our very own KCC staff member, we have Matt Thompson. And let me make sure I get the title right. IT lead / discipleship coordinator.
That
What's
is
going on, Matt?
correct. Oh,
That's a
just
mouthful.
another
Look at all
busy
those
day in
titles.
IT world.
Yeah, so Matt is
I gotta wonder how
everything.
many IT lead and discipleship coordinator lay pastors there are in the church nowadays. There can't be too many.
I feel like there can't be too many. That is a unique, highly esteemed title.
Indeed.
It's like the best of both
Definitely,
worlds.
it's definitely different hats. That's for sure.
That's right. Well, the reason why Matt is our guest this week is because we are actually talking about titled it "Living in the Digital Storm," and this is kind of an offset of a sermon series that our lead pastor preached on. And a sermon, basically, he called us as a church to a 7-day technological fast from all forms of technology. And his motivation for that was kind of just help us disconnect and kind of recognize the hold that technology can have in our lives that we may not even realize because we're so used to technology on a constant basis. So it was a big challenge. And obviously, as staff members, we had to participate. We had to get in on it. Right. We had to set the tone for the congregation. So we just wanted to kind of share our reaction with that and what we went through. And also, Matt did a solo talk on the digital storm. So he's got some great statistics about technology and AI and all this fun stuff. So I think it's a really relevant topic. It's going to be very interesting. And we're going to have a good time today. So let's just start with you, Matt. What was your what was your response to the digital storm? What did you give up and what did you experience as you went through this digital fast?
Yeah, what was interesting is that Lent had started on Wednesday prior to Sunday, and so I decided for Lent that I was just going to give up social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, anything social media related. I was planning on giving up for Lent. And so, since going into the fast on Sunday, I figured, well, I'll just start early. And I really, I mean, I knew I have a propensity to spend too much time on my devices, especially at home. But I didn't think it would be that much of a problem. And just even after the first day, I realized that the only way I was going to make it through this fast was to surrender my iPad. So on Sunday, when after service, I had told Pastor Mick, I had told him, I said, listen, the only way I'm going to make this is if I surrender my iPad to you. So I gave it to him for the week to hold. And yeah, so I refrained from all media, no television, no at home. The only time I used my cell phone was for communication, such as calls and texting, but definitely no social media. And I read 3 books. I got a lot of sleep, and uh, my anxiety level, I don't know how you would measure it, but literally it dropped to a very peaceful state as the week went further and further along. And I really, really, really enjoyed the fast.
Very good. I definitely
Awesome.
shared some of the similarities that you shared. Thorin, what about you? How was your digital fast journey?
Yeah, my fast, I was concerned about it. I did the kind of I gave up everything except my phone for calls and text only, and obviously computer for what I have to do for work. So basically, I have a computer in my room at home that I spend a lot of time on when I'm at home, and I turned it off. I unplugged it on Sunday, and I did not plug it back in or turn it back on until the fast was over, and It was honestly, and I'm not saying it's like, oh, look how cool I am, but it was easier than I thought in some ways. It was harder than I thought in other ways. The just disconnecting was actually easier than I thought it would be. What was hard was not being able to spend time with my friends from like New York and people whom I spend a lot of time with online through Discord, a social media platform that we use. But I read several books that I had been meaning to read. I read a big book about cults and new religious movements, which was awesome. It was very meaty and detailed.
Dude, you
I reread
burned through that book.
I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy again. I read The Hobbit. I read a couple other books as well. I didn't even get through everything, but in some ways the fast was really amazing and it was really beneficial to me. In other ways, I was a bit not disappointed, but I would say the Lord was really speaking to me and opening my eyes. Like he showed me specifically, like, technology isn't your problem. Your problem is this, because something that I was hoping to do was just spend a lot more time in the Word, spend a lot more time in prayer, and I just thought that'd be easier because I wasn't, I'm not spending time like playing games or watching shows on my computer. But it was actually just as difficult, if not harder, to set aside this time intentionally to spend just with the Lord, just with the Word. And I don't know exactly why that is, but he revealed that was like, no, this is a greater problem that just unplugging from a device for me specifically won't fix. So that was good, but it was challenging.
Yeah, I really like that perspective when you first shared that, because to me that was also an eye-opener, because it's so easy that we can think that, oh, like if we are lacking in our spiritual walk with the Lord, we can just assume that, oh, it's this specific thing that I'm doing or hobby or activity. But in reality, it's like, no, all those things, they exist, but we choose to give them power. So it's like, even if they're not there, if we don't have an urgency to spend time with God, we'll still not do it, right? We can still come up with excuses or just not want to do it. Then it's like, then it's even more revealing, because like now we don't have as many things to keep us busy, and we're still not being intentional about spending time with the Lord. So that's when it's really convicting, right? So it's like, exactly. So I think that was a really good eye opener, like you said. I know for me, I think similar kind of guys, what you guys said, it wasn't like drastically difficult. And I didn't think that going in, because I really don't spend too much time on the social media side. Like I don't really have like social media apps on my phone, and I'm really not on them. So for me, that aspect wasn't really difficult. So I chose, like you guys, I did everything technology wise. I didn't like no streaming or anything, no videos or movies, no cell phone except for text and calls. But I also did no music. And that for me was surprisingly the hardest thing. I did not like going out. I was like, oh, music, like it's just another step, but it's not gonna be that bad. But like by day 3, like it was hitting. I was just like, I have like 60 different songs in my head, like just going through things.
Man.
And I didn't really realize how much of a effect music has on my life, even my emotions to a certain extent, of being able to listen to certain songs. So for me to not just be like, oh, I'm going to listen to praise music or something, to listen to no music for 7 days was something I've never done or anything close to it. So that for me was like a huge sacrifice. It's like, it was like getting bad. So that was kind of like one of my biggest ahas, because I wasn't expecting that. I thought it'd just be another thing to throw in, but it was definitely freeing to not have that device mentality where it's always with you at all times. Like there are multiple times where I lost my phone. Like I just come in the house, I'd put it down, and right. And it's just like, oh yeah, like where did I put that thing? And I'm looking at it because I need it for my alarm for work tomorrow, and I can't find it. And just like Matt said, the sleep aspect was huge. And I know it has a lot to do with, like blue light filters and stuff. But yeah, I think one of the nights I fell asleep at like as soon as we put the kids to bed, I think it was like 8:00 or something like that. And Carissa was like you've never fell asleep that fast ever. Like I was just out. Like it was just crazy. But yeah, you definitely felt more restful not being on the devices. So yeah, it was definitely eye-opening. And I know there's many testimonies and people that have had experiences and have shared. So yeah, so it is a quick plug that if you do go to KCC and you did partake in the fast, that you can share your testimony on our My KCC app. So we encourage you to do that, because it's been cool hearing how it's affected different people in different ways.
We want to know.
That's been really cool. Yeah, we want to know, right? We want to hear the story, because it's different for everybody.
Funny.
So
I got a funny story. that very first day, Monday, talking about leaving and can't find your phone, I had left my phone on the desk. I mean, I sat it down and didn't even use it for the whole day. And I got home and realized I had no way to open up my garage door because I used the Q app on my phone to open up the garage door. So I had to drive back to work, back to the church here and grab my cell phone. Then got there and realized I didn't have it unlocked because I had locked down all of my apps except for the phone and text. And realized now I needed to unlock the phone to unlock the queue so I could actually open up the garage door. But it was like little things like that was amazing of just how often the mobile phone has become an integral part of my life through just technology of turning the thermostat on and off and setting different things. It's just amazing how interwoven it has just become natural in our day-to-day life.
There's an app for everything nowadays.
Absolutely.
Coming here to
Yeah,
Michigan, where I live, was the first time. Jamie and Jody, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. I love your house. The app to open the garage door is a little frustrating to me. I won't lie, but I'm a non-app person, right? I'm a phones. Don't give them too much power, as Matt said, or we might end up in a place like this.
Yep.
Yeah, I found that funny too, like because it reveals like how dependent we are on tech, and then like for us, it's like it's just everything is just a hey Google away. I was just asking a question, and we had those disconnected, so yeah, we couldn't just like put things on or ask questions or cooking stuff or measurements. It's like all that stuff is like you don't have that at your fingertips. So for us, it was definitely eye opening, just how tech dependent that we are on things. So yeah, it was definitely eye opening. So Matt, I know you took it to the next level because you did the research you had in it. You gave us a talk on just the digital storm and where we're at as a nation and just in the world and technology. So I know you got tons of statistics and knowledge to share with us. So what are some of your highlights or your top ones that you could share with us today?
So it was interesting. So the Wednesday teaching was more based on the cybersecurity and the threats that we have in our personal lives from overusing mobile devices. And then speaking to the youth on Sunday, we dove more into the mental health aspect of the addiction to cell phones. And then I had a talk with parents, a Q&A of just like how as parents do we manage the digital world with our teens and our preteens. And so I had a ton of different stats, but some of the key ones were, and I don't necessarily know if this will surprise anybody, but 92% of all individuals in the US have at least one smartphone. That's a huge number. On average, most children receive their first smartphone at age 11. That kind of blew my mind a little bit. American adults spend about 4.5 hours on their mobile devices each day. And it's a lot higher in the youth, and we can give those statistics in a little bit. And then 45% of all web traffic that originates in the US is from smartphones. And that's pretty amazing that it's not computers, it's not, transactions from business to business. I mean, it literally is traffic over our smartphones. That is what the majority, almost 50% of the web traffic consists of. And I was talking about the hours that are spent online. So 4.5, literally I'm from Generation X. And our average screen time is about 6, but then it drops off with the baby boomers and what's considered the silent generation. They're averaging just a little over almost 3 hours, 2 hours and 54 minutes to 2 hours and 45 minutes. And so that's where that number starts to drop below to the 4.5. But the Gen Zs and the millennials, Gen Z, which is our youth today, they're averaging 7 hours and 18 minutes looking at a screen. And the millennials are about 6 hours and 42 minutes spending on the time of looking at a screen. And that is 1/3 of the day, almost 1/3 of the day is that they're looking at a particular device, whether it's their smartphone, whether it's an iPad, whether it's a laptop or a television screen. It is definitely a major factor in their lives. And so, depending
Yeah,
upon what they're viewing, is going to have a either net positive or net negative effect on their mental health and well-being.
Right.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me when you had shared that is kind of, I think we don't realize how much screen time we have because we separate them based on activities, right? So it's like, oh, well, if I'm at work, it's not enjoyable screen time, but there is a screen in front of me, or I'm this many hours at work, this many hours I'm on my cell phone, this many hours I'm watching TV. So we separate them as different activities, but it's all screen time. So when you add them all up, we don't realize how much we're actually in front of screens constantly.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest takeaways from doing this fast was how busyness is self-inflicted. That my thought of me being busy all the time really is self-inflicted because of the time that I spend looking at a screen rather than doing something else. And so it's this false sense of busyness that we have, because if we truly sat down and added up the hours of the day of what we're doing in front of a television or a cell phone or a laptop, I think we'd be quite surprised that there are other things that we could be doing in place rather than those kind of things.
Yeah, I remember, and that was the one stat you shared. I forgot the exact numbers, but you talked about like I forgot, was it teraflops?
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
talked
yeah,
about, yeah, like how many
yeah.
is
Well, that
like
was kind of
you
like how
used to
did
lay in the,
yeah. So that was kind of like how did like it's like we don't. So a lot of times we don't realize. Well, you can't really see it, but our phone is more than just a phone. And so I had this really cool graphic that kind of showed um, what a flop is, and a flop is a floating point operation per second. It's kind of like how powerful a computer is considered. A measurement. And the Apollo 11 guidance system, the computer that put the man on the moon, was 12,250 flops. And then in the 1980s, the supercomputer of the Cray 2, it jumped to 1.9 billion flops. So that was a huge jump from 1969 to about 1980. In that short period of time, we had made it 155,000 times faster than the computer that put the man on the moon. But our smartphones, especially the iPhone 12 smartphone, 11 trillion flops. That's approximately 5,000 times faster than the Cray supercomputer and 900 million times faster than the computer of the Apollo 11 guidance computer. That's
so crazy to hear.
I'm
You put it
literally
into
holding a
perspective.
supercomputer in my hand.
It is. It's.
Yeah.
You know what? There's one of the thing that I didn't have there. They said if you were to take the processing power of your iPhone 12 and bring it into 1969 in their technology, the warehouse that would have been required would have been the equivalent size of 12 city blocks.
Yeah,
That's-
because
that's
computers
so
used to be filling
Yep,
entire rooms.
exactly.
Now,
That's
uh,
like,
And now we can hold it in our hand.
there's
and
a video, a famous video on YouTube, old. It's an old clip from, I think, someone in the 60s or maybe the 70s, an expert on technology saying that, and he was telling some kids, it was probably part of like a news program. He was telling them like one day a computer will fit on a desk, and they were like, no, no way, no way. And that clip now on YouTube has tens of millions of views.
Yeah.
that's so. But no, but it really helps us put it in perspective because, like, yeah, we look at it as like, oh, this is just my cell phone, but it's
Yep.
like, no, it's so much more than that. Like, it records video, it live streams, it captures things, it posts on social media, it does email, like everything. Like, it is a supercomputer, and to think we have that much power in the palm of our hands, like in that short amount of time, is like crazy to think of.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. One of the, and I don't know if this is the time to switch to this part, but with that being a supercomputer, it's also being considered a super addiction, not just an addiction, but a super addiction. And by what I mean by that is that there's already a couple, like uh the the device that you are addicted to literally allows an avenue to other addictions such as pornography, gambling, social media, whatever you need to. And the problem is because it's so available and accessible and private, because it's in your pocket and can be accessed 24 hours 7 days a week. You don't have to go to a casino to gamble, and you don't have to go to a bookstore and get your pornography. It's all right there, readily available, that sits in our pocket for any age. And that's the scariest part about it. And yes, there are age restrictions for adult content, but quite honestly, our youth is much smarter and know how to manipulate those safeguards. Even the parent controls that are purchased and bought, there you can go on pretty much any social media, and one of the teens will have a hack of how to get past your parental guidance, or even the guidances that they put in place at schools.
Yep.
It's a challenge for an IT person, an IT director who's managing devices like that. It's a full-time job.
Yeah, something that you definitely, I mean, you just mentioned, Matt, and you're definitely aware of, is like my generation is very, very adept. If we're good at anything, it's getting around digital rules. And I
right.
mean, we say hacking, but it's more just finding vulnerabilities and exploiting it, getting around. I mean, I was like 12 and I already knew, is like, oh, I can't watch this YouTube video because it's flagged for explicit content. Well, I just make an account that says I'm 18 because there's no verification required. And even when there's systems that are more complicated, if I can't figure it out in my noodle up here, I'll just Google it, be like, oh, hey, how do I do this? And there'll be answers on Google. And it's like for example, YouTube, and this is more benign in my opinion. YouTube recently started blocking ad blockers, so you can't play YouTube videos anymore if you have an ad block. And within 24 hours, there was already a website, there was already a program that you could download that would allow your ad block to run on YouTube, which I use because blocking ads is stupid and should be illegal anyways. I mean, not blocking ad blockers is what I meant to say. Anyways, I just say all that ad blockers are good
Block the blocker.
and should not be banned. Say all that to say, in 24 hours, there's these easy exploits that everyone can figure out, and they're on the web. And like you said, they're at everyone's fingertips because you have Google on your phone. And it takes 5 minutes to Google, usually less than that, to Google any problem, and you can find a solution.
Yeah. Some what's really crazy too is that one of the statistics I shared with the parents with regards to the sexual addiction that can come along with an addiction to cell phone, as some of the statistics around it, that 68% of all youth under the age of 18 has been exposed to pornography on their mobile devices or their iPads or whatever. And 68, that's a huge number. That's crazy. But of that 68%, not all of it was intentional. There's implicit and explicit, meaning that they didn't intentionally go to look for pornography. It just showed up within whatever they were using or looking at or whatnot. Clicking on a link brought them to somewhere that they didn't intend to go or whatnot. But out of that 68%, 11% of females and 37% of male youth, it was implicit. They literally wanted and were searching out pornography, and that should be a huge red flag for us as a society, that we have a whole generation that has a warped sense of intimacy and a good healthy relationship with their sexuality. And it's rough. I mean, if they're learning those things from their mobile devices, and we know pornography is not real, it's disgustingly fake. it's just going to have a huge impact on our future.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
it's
learned this
definitely a
recently, and
huge piece.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead, Thorne.
Okay. Yeah, so I just learned recently this is about AI, so and pornography, and obviously, AI generated pornographic images are becoming, very popular, very easily accessible. But at the same time, AI itself in general, lots of popular programs like AI Dungeon, for example, which is a storytelling AI tool, have become so filled with the AI itself has become so filled with pornography that it's turning to that more and more in the prompts, even if that's not intended,
Yeah.
because it's like the AI is learning, and this is like, oh, this is one of the dominant
Mm.
things that it's learning to do with a lot of programs. So, like you were saying, even unintentionally, I was trying to use AI to do some fun story stuff, and it started turning down a very sexual way, and I was like, I didn't intend any of this, and I don't even see how this is coming out of the prompt. It's just the AI is just guessing that this is what I want based on, just general user preference from all of the data that it's gathering, which is disturbing, I would say, to say the least.
Yeah, because isn't that it's like ironic because it's actually showing us as a people what we actually value
Yep.
and the things
Yep.
we actually look for and stuff. Right? It's saying like, oh, I know this is what you actually want because this is what I get the most of, and it's like it's kind of telling. So kind of transition to that, right? Thorne kind of opened the AI door. We know that it's a reality. We know it's here to stay. It's been, I know, really kind of making waves lately, just how much it's advanced. So Matt, what has kind of been your learning of what you've kind of, as you've been studying more stuff on the topic of AI and, the great benefits of it, fears of it, and kind of what the kind of reality is of it right now?
Yeah, that's kind of what I have is a love-hate relationship with it right now. There are some things that excite me to no end. The idea that the progress that we can make in medical research, like just for an example, the technology of AI helped um, Elon Musk developed the neurochip that was implanted in a patient at the beginning of February, and that patient survived and is doing and thriving well, and has been able to literally move the movement of a mouse on their computer screen just by thinking it. And this was implanted in a person who has no use of their arms or legs. Now, if you take what that could in essence be, yes, it's scary that you're allowing somebody to plant a device in your brain that's reading your thoughts and then electronically passing it through. But for those that are crippled or born with a deformity that doesn't allow them the use of their arms or legs, if knowing Elon Musk and his creativity, I can't imagine that he's not developing an exoskeletal system that will allow people the ability to walk, um, with using the Neuralink and in essence an exoskeleton that allows them to move their arms and legs. So the implications of what we can do with AI is incredible, but with that is a great responsibility. And man, I mean, the more and more I dive into it, I am drawn just more and more to the garden, found in Genesis chapter 3, of God telling us that we could partake in all of this except this one tree of good and evil. He didn't want us to touch that, but as the story tells us, that the enemy whispers in Eve's ear as Adam standing right next to her and doesn't try to stop her, but they partake because they want to know everything that God knows. And in essence, that's what AI is trying to replicate, the ability for us to be able to expand our knowledge beyond what we're really supposed to. And with that will become potential danger of when do you say enough is enough. I mean, the fact that we can start doing something uh, outside of what we were originally capable of doing is starting to quickly become a reality. Yeah, like Elon's story is just a kind of an example of who would have thought that a chip could be developed that could read and transmit our thoughts to something. It's almost, and we had used the Tower of Babel as our starting point on this fast, of this idea of After the flood, the people spoke one common language, one common speech. And because of that, they decided to build this tower so that they can make a name for themselves and the tower will reach to heaven. But God had saw that, man, if we allow them to do this, if we allow them to stay with one common language, common speech, there's nothing that they're not going to be able to do. And they're not going to need us, the Trinity, and the dependence of God. And so he scatters us. And in essence, with AI, but just the internet in general, it has allowed us as a world to become more closer and closer to a person with one common language, one common speech, where we can communicate. And that one common language, one common speech is zeros and ones. It's not necessarily a language, a dialect, or whatever. I can speak in my native tongue, it's translated in zeros and ones and goes to a person who says, well, I want it this way. And it transmits exactly what I said, word for word, back into their language. And so we have this ability that takes a huge responsibility. And how we use this it can be the most frightening thing as well. And I think we're starting to see, like last week, there was much in the news about Google's response to some queries and how biased it was, and how dangerous the response, and literally trying to rewrite history in some aspects. And the problem is today's AI, it's just taking information from a particular creator or group, and they're putting that information in, and that's what it's using as its subset to build and learn upon. Well, if that information that's originally put in there is filled with a particular bias, that computer, that AI, as well as it may grow in its thought and language, its thoughts and communication, it's going to be based from that as its working principle. And that's where all of a sudden politicians are taking notice, and special interest groups are taking notice of, like, listen, there has to be some controls and some device. And in fact, Google, like this had a significant financial hit on their stock, that they were going, this was the launch and going to market, and realizing that what their AI was returning wasn't necessarily the truth, was a problem and is a problem. And so if we come to the idea that AI is all truth and I don't have to rely on any research on myself to take whatever I get out of AI and apply it to some other things, specifically in our case as Christians is the Bible, take it to the Bible and see if it's biblical. And if it's biblical, then you can start to dig even further. But my point would be, if it's not even biblical, well, then there's no need to take the discussion anywhere further or dive into it. And then the other thing is how AI is being used in the criminal aspect of things. And what I mean is the cybersecurity side of it. We already had a tough enough job as IT security people fighting intruders, but now with implementing AI in this and being able to digitally represent a particular person based upon information that they collected from somebody's Facebook page or a video, and take their likeness and create an image in the video of them speaking whatever message they want to speak, like it is becoming harder and harder to detect and prevent those attacks. And our elders are being really taken advantage of these scams. And there are stories after stories of people that are just being completely robbed of their life savings because they've been swindled because of AI cyber scams. It's terrible. I wish I would have had that statistic too. I did have it, but it's like a $35 trillion. It's expected to be a $35 trillion profit within 2025 is what they anticipate cybercrime to hit. That's our debt. in essence,
Crazy.
which is
That's
bad enough
nuts.
as it is. But to think that that computers are literally robbing people, the use of AI is being used to rob people is just horrible.
Yeah, that is crazy, and it is. It's just the reality of what we've been experiencing. Now, Thorne, you said you had an AI question, kind of, as you listened to Matt's presentation and stuff. So, what was your question?
Yeah,
What's
I
on
was
your
just
mind?
wondering. Yeah, I was wondering what you thought about the new AI that's come out only recently. How quickly it's advanced in terms of making like hyper realistic videos just from text prompts. And I was watching someone who's rather well informed and has a lot to say about AI, and they were covering this topic, and they were basically saying, and I was kind of agreeing, like I don't see any good use that could come out of this technology, any genuinely good use that could come out of this
Hmm.
technology. And they were also suggesting that, I mean, pretty soon, if this technology becomes advanced far enough, we will not be able to trust anything that we see online,
Yeah.
anything at all that we see online, whether no matter
Hmm.
how realistic it looks as a video. So that even, because for so long it was like if it's on camera, if it's recorded, that means it has to be true, unless there's some, camera
Right.
tricks going on. But now that won't even be the case. So what do you think about that specifically, Matt, with these AI making videos just out of text?
Yeah, it's wild. I've used Chat GPT's version of it is Dolly 5, I believe is what it's called. And I've actually used, I created our Christmas, we had an open house in Christmas, and I took an image of Joelle and myself, and I transformed it onto 1950s characters that were dressed in suits and party dresses, and literally made an invitation that looked like you couldn't tell it wasn't really us. It was,
Very nice.
and it literally
Oh, that's
took
cool.
like 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes to create this. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. Um, but yeah, it's, they're actually have classes now, offerings at the university level, that are geared for training individuals to be able to detect AI generated images. Now, some of it's pretty obvious. There are things you can see, and if you look at an AI generated image, sometimes you'll see some weird anomalies, like
The
six
hands.
fingers. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't do
Always
hands
check the
real well.
hands.
And that
Always
is
check the
like
hand. There
where
we go.
that's the
That's
very first thing you should check is a hand. Or the other thing too is like, where is the arm coming from, especially if it's a group of people and you'll see an arm growing out of the back of somebody's head that's in a group video. You're like, well, obviously something's not right here. um
hmm.
but yeah, I mean, that's only going to get better and better and better,
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
to not have those anomalies show up. That's going to make it harder and harder to detect, where it may get to a point, unless you have a face-to-face conversation with an individual, everything should be considered suspect.
Which
Yeah.
is crazy to think of. It's like it puts you in a state of paranoia
Yeah.
of life, because it's like if I can't trust anything. But I think it's important, like how you said, Matt. I think the irony of it is that no matter how creative or sophisticated AI becomes, it can never differentiate truth from lies.
Correct.
And it kind of points back to, us being made in the image of God, and that there is an objective truth.
Yep.
And that, like you're saying, it's like, yeah, if we're creating these things and we're not, even as a culture, if we're not even believing that there is objective truth, then yeah, everything that we create in AI or any information that we feed is just biased and subjective. Like, by result, you're creating a flawed system. And it's like, for people that rely on that, then it just creates another barrier to prevent you from actually knowing what truth is, because you
Right.
can't just get that. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm just going to trust whatever Google tells me or AI tells me because it's smarter." Why wouldn't it know the truth? And it's like, well, yeah, you don't know. You're trusting that what it's telling you is true, but you really don't know. And especially, like I say, if you live in a culture that there is no objective truth, then it's like, at the end of the day, what is it? How do you can't trust anything that the technology
Yep.
tells you? So it's like a
And the
constant state of
problem,
fear and untrustworthiness in the technology that we're in, because of the people that's behind it.
Yeah, it's kind of like we've kind of got ourselves caught up into like almost a perfect storm. So, like it has been growing at least for the past 15 years of people's really getting all of their information based upon what they're reading on their smartphone or on their particular device. And it's killed the art of critical thinking, that they'll just take whatever they read as being fact and not challenge it and not think it and process it through and test it against other things. They'll just say, oh, I saw it on Twitter, so it must be real because it was my favorite, influencer or whatnot, and just take it as word for word rather than going, well, that's interesting. Maybe I can go and check the legitimacy of that. And most people are not doing that. We've been dummied up to this particular point. Now implement AI generating its own particular images, and I've got to the part where I feel pretty safe of taking the information I see online as being truth. And we're so far from that. I mean, it depends on which channel you have on, which device, which influencers, whoever you're listening to, whatever your audience is going to be based upon whatever you're perceiving your truth to be. And that's a shame that we're no longer challenging. And when I mean by challenging, I'm just meaning just being defiant or whatever, but you should be curious. You should be wanting to dig deeper into whatever you learn to see if there's other perspectives, if there's other ways of looking at a particular topic or subject or whatever the circumstance might be. But we need to reintroduce critical thinking into our society more than anything else, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think as we've seen just through talking about AI and technology, and even through the digital fast that we went through, like we said in the beginning, just recognizing our dependence on technology and our trust in technology, and when our hope and trust should be in Jesus Christ. And it's like he wakes us up and kind of says, like, no, this is what's most important. This is where truth is found. It's not found in man-made devices and technology. It's found in God and the Word of God. So, I mean, obviously we just touched the tip of the iceberg. You can talk about AI for hours. Like it's like
for sure.
It is a never-ending well. But we unfortunately cannot talk about it forever. Maybe we'll do a part 2 on it. But Matt, I want to thank you for being our guest today. And I know, like I said, you've been hard working on this, tons of research, and you're still going. So I know you have new things to share. But we hope that for those listening in, again, maybe this might prompt you. Do you think maybe I could use a digital fast? Maybe some of these statistics were alarming to you and you want more research. We encourage you, look that stuff up, study those things. And yeah, just take that reflection on yourself. Like, where is your trust and your hope coming from? Is it in the Lord or is it in technology? And is that where your dependence is in? So again, we weren't trying to scare people.
Right.
Yeah. Right. The end of
and I
forgot, but we want people to be alert.
Yeah, I forgot to issue my disclaimer that I know a couple things, but I'm not an expert by any means in AI or IT. I'm just bringing what I've learned and know and have researched on. But by far, there are smarter people out there, and really encourage people to dig into more on these topics that we discuss on their own.
Yeah. So don't take our word for it. Just do the research. Find stuff out, but don't ignore it. Like AI is going to just disappear because it's not.
Right.
It's here to stay.
It is.
So you might as well educate yourself. Yeah. Yes, educate yourself so you can be in the know. But anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode of the Most Segregated Hour. Again, if you like it, please share with other people, and we'll see you next time here on Most Segregated Hour. Take care.
Thanks, guys.